Welcome back, subscribers. This is Johnny Hopper, and I'm going to go over RedBud. It's actually my favorite track on the circuit. So this video starts now. Anyway, you probably see that I got a cast on, or maybe you wouldn't even notice unless I brought it up. But I broke my thumb this weekend. It's been over a month since I've ridden. I was just at my local track that I've done hundreds of hours on, and gosh, more like thousands of hours on. And I just had a small little mishap, front end stuck. Oh, motorcycle, you're heavy when you hit somebody. Oh, oh. Oh, oh. Did I break my thumb? Bike flipped on top of me, smashed my thumb. Doc says small fracture in the knuckle, and 3 to 5 weeks wearing a dumb little cast, and I should be good. I'm going to say probably 3 weeks I'll try riding again. But anyway, talking about RedBud, it's my favorite track on the circuit just because of the big jumps, Roczen's leap, and the different terrain. So Roczen's leap, everybody wants to know. I personally, every time I was there, I would always hit it in second gear, because shifting to third, I felt like my bike would bog, but I would have to go way, way wide. And typically, when I was doing the nationals at RedBud, I was on a KX450, and I believe I was geared at a 1349, just because you're more or less closer to sea level as comparative to Colorado, so the motor has more oxygen, so it's going to run faster. And I was a little at 135 pounds, so it didn't take much. I like to be gear definitely a lot taller so that it didn't rip my arms off. But you'll see these guys come out of the corners and really push the bike down to preload to get enough speed to get over it, because TV doesn't do it justice. It's right out of a corner and it's instant elevation up to the face of this thing. So you can't see the landing. You just gotta hope to God you're gonna make it. And I never qualified for the motos. You suck! At RedBud, even though it was my favorite track, I was always so worried about jumping Roczen's leap that I would sit there around the whole lap like, am I going to jump at this lap? Am I going to jump at this lap? And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that qualifying, you get 5 minutes free, 10 minutes of actual timed qualifying. So you only get 5 or 6 laps to qualify. So it's hard to learn the whole track in that amount of time. And I've talked about press day and blah, blah, blah. So in the comments below, you guys can say, Johnny, you're never very good. You just like to talk and everyone is against you. And anyway, I'm just being real with you guys. So that's how it was. And then as far as setup goes, I would say the north part of the track is this real deep, loamy dirt where you'd get these gnarly, really deep ruts and these big choppy bumps. So you're going to want to set the bike up definitely faster and softer to be able to soak that stuff up. But down at the bottom end where Roczen's leap is, you've got more of a sandy terrain where the bumps end up being quite a bit farther apart and bigger. So you want to set the bike up to be slower and stiffer. So it's a balance that you have to be to try to make the best setup. And it just blows my mind watching these factory bikes, especially if you watch Tomac. Granted, he is the best rider here in the US as of right now. I mean, arguably. And if you watch him ride, he seems very loose on the bike, and that bike underneath him just seems to float. Doesn't ever seem to stick and bounce real hard or kick them sideways. They've got a really good setup there over at Kawasaki. Moving on, I did like the helicopter footage, which was really sweet for RedBud. I do think that they should have this at every round. I mean, we've got the drone technology that's probably a lot cheaper than keeping a helicopter fueled up in the air, you know, for 2 hours out of the day. You could do that with drones, and you could probably get better footage and just have some good drone pilots. And the GPS, you could have the cameras follow them. I personally think they should do that. And as far as the Embassy Gold coverage, those guys, they seem to be making some small mistakes as far as the timing and the logos and how many seconds a leader is out front or behind. It just, anyway, all I'm saying is even the best make mistakes. So when you find a mistake on my channel, please try to be nice. You know, definitely let me know about it in the comments, but, you know, try not to refrain from calling me an idiot.
You're an idiot!
Anyway, the first rider I'd like to talk about is Cooper Webb. He qualified first. He was a couple thousandths faster than Marvin, which was surprising because Webb normally isn't the fastest qualifier ever. He seems like he's a better racer than he is qualifier. Even in Supercross, he was always 5th to 10th per se. So that was really cool to see him. And then obviously in that first moto, he was running up front for a while and ultimately ended up finishing 3rd. And what I really like about this kid is he's definitely the youngest of the top riders that we're talking about, because he's 23. I believe Roczen is 25. Anderson and Tomac are both 26, and then Osborne, who was out.
Yeah, I had a little practice crash on Thursday afternoon at the Baker's factory, and injured my collarbone and sternum connection, and it's just been a tough couple days since then. Not much time to recover. You know, obviously I had to travel yesterday, and
but he's 29, and Marvin is 29 as well. Anyway, I like the fight in this kid because he doesn't want to be pushed around, and as soon as he gets past, he'll instantly attack right away, which gets in the other rider's head, because if you're able to make that pass, that other rider thinks, you know what, I get around Webb and check, moving on to the next guy, and then here he comes again. It's just going to mess up your flow. So he ended up 4th overall. Obviously, the next guy I want to talk about is Eli Tomac. This guy didn't do very well at RedBud at the Motocross of Nations, but there was a lot of mud involved. And Tomac is just one of those riders that doesn't need to rely on a good start, because he knows he's the fastest guy on the track more often than not, and he's got the fitness to be able to make stuff happen, and he's got the time with 35 minutes. So you'll see him always seem to get that 5th to 10th place start, and in the first moto, just easy squeaky, just ends up getting around everybody and gets in the lead and runs away with it. I believe wins by 10 seconds or so. In the second moto, got to give it up to Anderson for holding him off. And Anderson seems like he'll do whatever he can to keep you from getting around him, where Eli finally had to just push him out of the way to get around him. And I'm really impressed with Anderson as well, because he's definitely seems more like a Supercross rider, but it's cool to see him become more of a motocross rider, and I believe before his career is over with, we're going to see him actually get some moto wins and some overalls for motocross. The next rider is this Henry Miller. I believe he qualified 10th, and he was only off by, looked like 3.5 seconds on a fairly privateer bike, and he ended up finishing 12th overall. I think the first moto he might have gotten 10th or 9th, and in the second moto he got 14th. So I definitely give him my Privateer Performance Award, and I just made that up. So good for Henry Miller. He is a 2-digit number. I'm wishing him the best in the future, because, gosh, I've been watching all season long and I haven't really paid attention to him. So Dean Wilson, this was his first ride back as well in like 3 months because of Vegas. I wouldn't say Vegas, but it was in Denver where he crashed and messed up his shoulder. So it was cool to see him on that Rockstar Cavarna, and they need it because now they're out Osborne. So he ended up finishing 9th overall with a 9th and an 8th. So that's very respectable considering we're on round 7 here, and everyone pretty much has their program in place. They've got their bike pretty much set up. You set up the bike different for every round, but it's hard to jump into the racing mid-season. So it's really cool that he's back. I expect him to finish better here in the next few rounds. Just because I like to be controversial, we saw Jason Wygant say how fit Supercross and motocross riders are.
But they've tested these riders, often the fitness higher than any other athlete in any sport, stick and ball sports or anything else. They often average heart rates for the whole half hour in the 190s.
And one would think, if they're the fittest athletes in the world, would they be taking special supplements? Could they be blood doping? What could they potentially be doing if you've got to keep your heart rate up at 190 for 40 minutes? Let's put A and B together. Does everyone do it? No. Are there people that are doing it? Yes. And I'm going to make a video about this. Just been very hesitant to make a video about this between USADA and what used to be, well, they used to have WADA, but now it's USADA, and just how the anti-doping program isn't quite up to par what it is with the UFC and the NFL and blah, 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 blah. So, getting back to the racing. And yes, I do have to talk about Kenny, because I personally think if he didn't have an illness, which he hasn't said he has an illness, but if he does, I personally think the last couple of races would have been different. Nothing to take away from Marvin for winning WW and Southwick, but if Kenny was healthy, I personally think the red plate would be on his bike, not on Tomac's. Would he have won those races? I could argue and say he possibly could, but I don't want to take anything away from Marvin because he is definitely riding a lot better than he has at the beginning of the season. Well, I wouldn't even say that. Marvin, he's just had some off luck with some motos in this race as well, with that first moto with falling down on the first lap, because it sucks falling down on the first lap because you get past the most if you do that, because everyone is so condensed and bundled together. Anyway, the announcers were saying that Roczen had some bike problems, and did he hit a wall again? What do you think happened to him? I hate keep talking about this, but he needs to just say something, because you could tell even in his interview, something is not right.
Yeah, obviously I haven't been myself, but I go out there every weekend, just like last weekend, and I don't want to leave anything on the table. So a little bit of tough luck in the first moto. I threw up with about 5 minutes to go, so I had to really slow down and get it out and then keep going. So, but second moto, I just was going to go out there and leave nothing on the table, wherever that puts me.
With him physically, not mentally, because he's out there giving it his all, and he's definitely putting himself in the right position, getting good starts, getting up front. But in that first moto, he said that he ended up throwing up. And is that from hitting a wall? Is that from the mono? What is that from? Why would you throw up? Is it heat exhaustion? Who knows? It sounds like there's something else going on. Without sounding like a broken record, sucks for Roczen. I wish him the best. I wish he didn't have whatever was happening, because I personally think he'd be winning the series right now. Moving on to the 250s, you got to talk about Fernandez.
Sometimes have trouble with my grammar, isn't it?
With winning both motos. So that guy definitely looks like for the foreseeable future is going to be inside the top three, potentially maybe win the rest of the motos. We'll see. I know it's only round 7 of 12, but I personally think he's probably going to make this points championship a lot closer between him and AC. And what sucks for AC is him finishing 5th that first moto. I know on TV he said he finished 3rd, but like Jason Wygant said, is they docked him 2 positions for accelerating off the track. I mean, I don't know. Personally, it looked like Alex Martin pushed him off the track, and he was doing whatever he could to get back on the track and keep his position, because he was ahead of him when he got pushed off. I personally wouldn't have docked him 2 positions. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. And poor Alex Martin with his bike blowing up that first moto. This guy just needs a break. Even in that second moto, He finished third, which was finally getting a break, but he ended up 11th overall because of that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and thank you for watching. This is Johnny Hopper. Brah! And guys, don't forget, we're sponsoring a 250 Pro Rider. He's got to be a privateer. He's got to be a 3-digit number. He's not on a factory team. He's not on a semi-factory team. But just at the bottom of the description, there's the GoFundMe page. Click on that, and we'll donate. As soon as we get to $1,000, we will unveil the winner. And again, for you guys to vote, you vote in the comments which rider you would like to see the money go to.